It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we begin a Friday, Gary, what's happening?
Well, I was thinking, which is in itself unusual.
I was going to say,
but I was thinking
into that.
What an insane week it's been, and it all started with a cat in a skirt. And then the show just went off the rails earlier this week, especially after that story.
I don't think it ever got back on the rails.
No, it never did. We never got back on the rails, and it just continues. I mean, I'm just going through. We'll cover everything that happened yesterday, including, as we told you years ago.
Yeah.
There was never any Russia collusion with Trump, and now the documents are coming out.
Yeah.
But there's just some other stuff out there, for example, of things that we talked about this week. Just reading the headline. We'll get to some of the specifics here in a little bit, because one of the things we talked about yesterday was, who are the Democrat leaders?
Right.
Who can run for president? Because this is because of the whole Kamala Harris thing. Mm-hmm. But she even stated that she doesn't see her leadership coming in a political role. Mm-hmm. Which everybody said, well, she left it open. I'm like, well, she sort of, did she leave it open? And who knows? I mean, because it's Kamala, and, we saw yesterday that she put out her, as they're calling it now, the word salad book.
Yeah.
But here it is, Susan Page, USA Today. Ready for this?
All right.
These are the things that make doing this job so incredibly entertaining.
Yeah.
Here's the headline, USA Today, Susan Page. Next stop, White House. Anticipation builds for Kamala Harris and other eager Democrats.
No.
Where?
No, that doesn't exist. Next stop, White House? I don't know, unless she's going to take a tour. Did they announce she's going to take a tour of the White House? Because that's I didn't get that at all from anything from her camp this week, that she's going to run in 28.
Unless it was her Coke and she's got more stashed in the White House somewhere that she wants to go and pick up. And
could have been. It wasn't Hunter's Coke, because Hunter doesn't leave Coke behind.
I mean, who even on the Democrat side is anticipating a Kamala Harris run for president again right now in August of 20. Wow, I can't believe I said that. August of 25.
Who is anticipating anyone?
You're right.
Because we talked about how the rock star thing for the Democrats is over. It ended with Obama. Because at the end of the 8 years, they were like, yeah, he didn't do anything for us. Even George Clooney. George Clooney's like, please, Barack who? It was okay, it took a few years for George Clooney to get to that point, but still he got there.
And remember, he's one of the smartest people out there, George Clooney.
That's right. He's the smartest man in the single-stall bathroom.
Well, it's a debate. Clooney or Obama? Who was the smartest human being of all time?
Right.
We're not going to be able to get through today's show. I'm really not.
Well,
you might as well just send me home.
Here's the thing. I'm trying to think how I could help the president with this whole physical fitness standard. Bringing that back.
I saw that.
Because here's what I'm thinking. It's just me. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that they televise every student's test, when they go to test them in the PE class. And if they don't pass it, that everyone laughs and laughs at them and mocks them. And then, of course, takes their lunch money. And then I kind of think, because I want it to be more like the Hunger Games. But, not with all the, death and everything. And that goes a little too far. But it would literally be Hunger Games because you would take their lunch money. And I'm thinking to myself, because it's if you're going to have a standard, and I thought to myself, by the way, standard. There's never any standard. There is no standard. Show up and show up.
Yes, there was a standard. I saw it on X, and if I see it on social media, then it has to be correct.
It has to be true.
And it was the president to bring back, basically physical ed standards.
Yeah,
and it showed all these kids. You may remember this. I don't know if this happened during your time because the picture was in black and white, and it showed all these kids on the rope at the ceiling of the gym that they had climbed up on the rope, and they were all hanging there coming down.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, there were physical standards, but many people suffered. Many of these young people suffered from second-degree burns on their hands when they started sliding down that rope.
Yeah, and falls from the rope.
Now, what I hope that doesn't do is, because, we had physical education. And remember, there was the President's Council on Physical Fitness. Remember those public service announcements? Mm-hmm. They'd have somebody out there, the President's Council on Physical Fitness.
Well, they promoted a big game. They did.
Yeah, I mean, it was,
but it wasn't real. I mean, there was, you go to PE class and it was like, all right, here's some basketballs. I'll be in my office.
Well, I hope it doesn't get back to where we were in the 60s and 70s, for example, in swim class. Mm. Now, many of you may remember this. I went to Kenmore West Senior High School in Kenmore, New York, outside of Buffalo. And the boys didn't swim. There was no co-ed swimming because the boys swam naked. Mm. Everybody swam naked. And whenever somebody...
I'm sorry, was that coach ever fired?
It was the policy of the school district. You swam naked. Now, and they
You sure it wasn't just for your class?
No. I will get emails on that.
No, Gary, we mean it. You're supposed to take all your clothes off and get in the pool.
I'll get emails on this one. Because
now keep the blindfold on.
Back in the 60s, I don't know when it stopped.
Because we're all taking our clothes off, too.
But in the 60s and 70s, you in many, I don't know whether it was a southern thing or a northern thing.
We didn't have a pool.
But
we had a football field. This is Texas.
And they said it was because of the I have no idea whether this is true or not. Mm-hmm. But what I've heard, because whenever I bring it up, on the alumni site from the high school I went to, everybody brings it up. They're like, yeah, what the hell was that about? And the AI answer, which means it may not be accurate, but if you did AI, why did you swim naked? They said it was because the material in the bathing suits that men wore would clog up the filters. The second one would be, it was a very perverted society.
Now, in public pools, they wouldn't let you swim in cutoffs for that reason, that the strings from your cutoffs became a thing. Basically, that started with us poor people that, well, we don't have shorts. I know I have a pair of scissors and these jeans. So they wouldn't let you wear cutoffs.
You know something, I'm writing this, and I'm proud.
Oh, yeah, you're going to violate so many company policies by Googling this.
There's a company computer, and I'm just like, oh, my gosh, I just put in.
Did all the students swim naked in a high school in Buffalo?
Now women didn't. Uh-huh. It was only the boys.
All right.
But I have, why did boys swim naked in pools in the 60s and 70s? I'm like, it's gonna, all of a sudden the police will be here.
Yeah.
I'll be pulled off the air like that Delta pilot was.
Exactly. Well, HR's going to find out who we are. That's a problem.
Okay, here it is. Here it is. It exists. AI. Okay, here we go.
All right.
In the 60s and 70s, boys in some U.S. schools and YMCAs were required to swim naked, primarily due to hygiene concerns and the limitations of early pool filtration systems. Specifically, swimsuits made of natural fabrics like wool shed fibers that could clog filters. Nude swimming was seen as a practical solution to this problem, especially in older pools. Now, I mean, there were some psychological problems that you could get out of it. For example, somebody like me who didn't enter puberty, I don't think, till I was 26 or 27. But that's for another thing when I lay on the couch with my shrink. By the way, I don't have a shrink, but I just...
Who was wearing wool swimsuits? What the hell is that about? That's just as weird as swimming naked.
Now, they say some also believe that nude swimming was more hygienic. But when we went, the thing is, when we went to the pool, that was the same pool. That my high school pool is where I learned to swim, where my father I wouldn't go near the water, so my father just picked me up and threw me in. Yes, he picked me up and threw me in, and there I am. But that was co-ed lessons, so everybody wore suits. But once I got to high school, in swim class, men did not swim with women. Didn't happen. Also believed that nude swimming was more hygienic. Look at this.
Yeah.
Hygiene concerns. Some also believe that nude swimming was more hygienic, according to a Facebook post. That's an AI. Well, then it's got to be true.
One Facebook post out of all the Facebook posts made it to AI. Hey, we found this.
Now, this I disagreed with completely. The practice of boys swimming nude was more socially acceptable in the mid-20th century. According to one user on social media, the lack of swimsuits was seen as a way to foster camaraderie and ease tension between the boys.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
Tension between the boys?
I have no idea. Okay, now I'm getting really uncomfortable with this topic. Maybe it's time to move on.
Yeah, it's acceptable in the circle of weirdos. Put your clothes on. Seriously.
I will say this.
How about this? No wool swimsuits.
Look,
there's a solution.
You're the one that's always said it. You know, you're the opposite of this cultural norm back in the 60s and 70s. You're the one constantly saying, put on your pants.
Yes.
So,
get dressed.
Yes.
I keep seeing more ads. I see these ads online for the whole body deodorant. Take a bath.
I saw a deodorant the other day. Remember, it was 8 hours, and then it was 16, and then it will last 24.
Which means gamers are pushing it by weeks, like 3 or 4 weeks.
I saw a deodorant that was 72 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
The French wear that, or
you got 2 cans of that sitting next to your gaming chair and 4 cans of Red Bull. Maybe you need to make some other life choices.
We're not going to be able to get through this show. We're just not going to be able to get through the show, but we're going to attempt to.
No, we're not. I started the whole thing with the PE thing. I was like, and a buddy of mine, he was saying, hey, did you see this whole thing? Because we'd made jokes about it, in the past. He said, would you be worried if you were a student today about physical fitness standard? I said, no, because back when I was in school, I was a musician. I was cool. I didn't have to worry about being strong. There were 2 ways to go on that, right? All right, I had long hair and played guitar. Or you could be, a jock, and some of my friends were, played football.
Or me.
Yeah, or you, and didn't either. And swam naked with other boys. Yeah. Wow.
Well, whenever I bring that up, and every couple of years I'll bring it up.
Please tell me that was the last period of the class, of the day.
I know. It's like the middle of the day.
You had to go to other classes and look people in the eye after that. What?
Why wasn't Gary confident in high school?
Hey, Bill, how's it going? I don't know.
But that I always get response to that, And people are like, I remember that. And growing up going to elementary school and the Catholic church that I grew up in, St. John the Baptist, also in Kenmore, New York, where they had a bowling alley and a bar on the church premises.
Yeah.
And whenever I bring that up, I remember a few people from like Minnesota, Wisconsin, contacted me and said, so did we.
Yeah.
We had a bowling alley and a bar, on church property.
Yeah.
I don't think they served hard liquor, though. I think it was just beer and probably beer and wine.
All right.
But they were, because my Uncle Norm used to be the manager of the bowling alley, which meant he bartended there all the time. We loved it. We was kids. Uncle Norm's working. Now, we didn't drink beer.
Right.
But we go there for sodas and play pinball and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
And then the priest would come in the afternoon.
That'd be great, by the way.
Priest would come in the afternoon and like, give me a beer. I'm not driving. I'm going to the rectory right over here.
Right. Yeah.
But what they said, I remember when that was brought up one time, and they said, look, if you're going to socialize, why not socialize with the parishioners in a place that's,
right,
that's very controlled when it comes to, alcohol and whatever. And I went,
right.
Oh, okay. The only thing that I remember, though, there was so much cigarette smoke. I rember how sick I felt when you go in there at night, because we used to have our Boy Scout meetings in the same place. It was like, wow. But
yeah,
I always get comments on those whenever I bring those two things up, and it's like, where did you grow up, Gary? What kind of a town was that?
Yeah.
Well, hey, Wolf Blitzer graduated from my high school.
Look,
so
we're having a beer in church. We're swimming naked in the pool. We're doing things,
You need a beer after swimming naked in the pool.
Life in the 60s.
866. We have a show.
A show, something.
Yes, 866-90 Red Hot.
Hi there, this is Hope Zavara with Mother Trucker Yoga, and here's your health tip of the day. Healthy driver, healthy diesel, powered by House. Truck drivers are at high risk for carpal tunnel and grip issues from long hours at the wheel, leading to pain, stiffness, and weakness over time. Let's fix that right at the wheel. Using your steering wheel, stretch one finger at a time, starting from your thumb to your pinky. Hold each of those for 10 seconds. Then place all 4 fingers on the wheel and gently press and stretch your palm and wrist. Hold for another 10 seconds. Don't forget to do the other hand. Do this 2 to 3 times a day to keep your hands mobile, strong, and ready for action. There you go. Small, simple changes that can lead to big results so you can feel good again. Visit mothertruckeryoga.com and houseproducts.com for more tips and support.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Actually, a really interesting day coming up, the deadline for tariffs. Not really a lot of coverage on the appeals court looking at the president's tariffs yesterday. If you don't know, there's lawsuits on it already, and we'll talk about that and what the judges were looking at, what the president is doing today. But really, the big news, I think, was the Russia collusion material that has come out. It's not good. It's everything that we knew it, but now you've got evidence backup of so much of this. And there are things added to it, too, that we will also get to. But, wow. As we said at the minimum, who knows what the criminal charges could be, the civil charges could be, whatever, on this long term, but at least you get it out to the American public.
Right.
You promote it. You make
Right.
sure that history knows
Right.
that there was no Russia collusion. It was all a hoax created by Democrats.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Before we get to the new stuff, this is a golden oldie from earlier this week.
All right.
All because of the American Eagle ad.
Yeah, all right.
This is now my favorite post from a liberal woman on social media.
Okay.
On the whole thing. You ready?
Okay.
Here we go. Get ready for this one. Highly entertaining.
Good genes passed on to offspring? That American Eagle ad with Sydney Sweeney is literally overt eugenics. I know you don't want to hear this, but if you want to talk about how that ad is promoting eugenics, which it absolutely is, we also have to talk about how choosing not to wear a mask when you can during an ongoing pandemic, because you're okay with a certain subset of people, primarily disabled people of color, dying for your own comfort, is also eugenics, just the more normalized kind.
Man,
Exam.
she went around the entire neighborhood to pull in the driveway on that one.
Another reason why it's impossible to have a debate or a rational debate or discussion with anybody on the left.
No, because if you were standing like in a break room or whatever in a face-to-face scenario with her, and she says that to you, if she says it to me, I go, okay. And I'd walk out of the room.
I want to play one more time, just in case, because maybe it was a tiny bit muffled at the very beginning, and I just think it's worth another listen to. Here we go.
Good genes passed on to offspring? That American Eagle ad with Sydney Sweeney is literally overt eugenics. I know you don't want to hear this, but if you want to talk about how that ad is promoting eugenics, which it absolutely is, we also have to talk about how choosing not to wear a mask when you can during an ongoing pandemic, because you're okay with a certain subset of people, primarily disabled people of color, dying for your own comfort, is also eugenics, just the more normalized kind.
I love the part where she says, I know you don't want to hear this, but
I'll play it on a loop.
Oh, we kind of do want to hear it.
Yeah, yes, we do want to hear it. This is why Eric and I are staunch defenders of the First Amendment.
Yeah.
You need to know what the insane are thinking.
Exactly.
So all you people not wearing masks, it's because you want elderly, marginalized people to die.
That's right.
This has been the most insane week. And not major issues, like in life or death issues out there that they're nuts on. Just every single story has been just insane from the left, and it just gets more and more and more. And you think they got to, well, I was doing it in 2018. The liberals and the Democrats, they got to change their approach here. They can't continue to do this. What an idiot I was to even think something like that.
Well, and the fact that she's bringing back the whole mask thing.
I know.
So many things they just recycle them, whether it's from years ago or just months ago. You saw, who was it? David Axelrod posted something, and Molly Hemingway had reposted it on X. He posted something to the effect of, "This is a bunch of garbage that on the Russian collusion thing. That this new evidence is a bunch of garbage because even Marco Rubio believed it at one point until, when it was safe to say he believed it, basically back then. And everybody that's looking at this with a critical thinking mind, of course, says, well, wait a minute. What intel was Marco Rubio getting? Marco Rubio wasn't in that January meeting.
Yeah.
Which version was he getting? That's the question. Doesn't matter who believed what. A lot of people believed it because the entire intel community, or the upper echelon of the intel community, those in charge of the CIA and the FBI, were making it happen. They were changing it on the fly. They were taking the intel, the proof that the Russians weren't trying to do anything, and then turning around into the opposite. They did the same thing with Carter Page. Carter Page was not a CIA asset. Oh, sorry, I lied on that one. And this is, again, this is their effort to kind of regurgitate this whole thing. The left is going to, I think that's going to be their defense on this, is that, no, it was always Russia collusion. It was always Russia collusion. It was always the Russians trying to hack and steal the election and use Trump to do that and blah, blah, blah. It is what we said it was then.
Well, you've seen the clarification from everybody on the right.
Mm-hmm.
What they're saying is Russia never wanted Trump to win.
Right.
And they didn't want to win, which means they were attempting, but they didn't put out the negative information they had on Hillary.
Right.
Because they didn't want her to lose.
Right.
And so when they put it in the general thing that people believe there was Russia collusion, it was, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the Facebook ads? Are you talking about something else that doesn't relate to that? This is a separate topic from anything else concerning Russia collusion. This is specifically that Trump did not collude with the Russians, that was a setup. That was a setup by Hillary Clinton.
Right.
She created that. Might there have been attempts for Russia to attempt to influence the election in some way? Well, the fact that there seems to be agreement on the fact that they weren't trying to target Trump, they were protecting Hillary, that in itself would be a form of Russia collusion, but it strengthens the Republicans' argument, and it strengthens all of the evidence that now exists on there.
Right.
But let's go to, well, first off, let's go through what we now know, all right, from Chuck Grassley. And, to go through every single document would be,
it would take us years.
Yeah, it actually would. But the FBI knew the Russia collusion hoax arose from the Hillary Clinton campaign, and they ignored the key intelligence to cover it up. The Clinton campaign's plan was to use or possibly coordinate with the Obama FBI to accelerate the narrative and leak it to U.S. press outlets. The FBI placed thousands of relevant documents in burn bags for destruction, but Kash Patel found them in a secret room at the FBI. We did ask the question yesterday, why didn't they destroy them?
Right.
Hillary Clinton approved. Now, again, there may have been somebody who they put in charge of destroying it and said, the hell, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to go to jail for this down the road. That could be the answer. Hillary Clinton approved of the plan to concoct concoct Donald Trump colluding with the Russians narrative in order to distract the public from her use of the private email server.
Right.
The original DNI report from late 2016 rightly said Russia did not favor Trump and did not work to elect Trump, even holding back damaging intel on Hillary Clinton because they wanted Hillary to win.
Right.
Obama, nevertheless, ordered a new report to be created that tied Trump to Russia. On Obama's direction, Brennan and Clapper manufactured intelligence and included the Hillary Clinton paid-for Steele dossier in the new report, despite warnings from CIA analysts that it was untrustworthy. They didn't buy it. And that's where we are right now. We have time. Let's play Jonathan Turley talking about this yesterday. Also, Michael Schellenberger went down. Remember, Turley is a Democrat. Michael Schellenberger, a Democrat. Here we go. Here's what they had to say.
Well, there's a lot of people worried in the city tonight. This is the great reveal that John Ratcliffe was promising, and there's more to come. The important thing about this, Sean, is that it confirms things that we knew, and it gives us things that we did not know. We always knew, not always, but we knew earlier, in July 2016, Brennan briefed Obama to say that Hillary Clinton was planning to create a Russian collusion scandal for Trump to distract from her email scandal. He briefed the president on that, and then months later, he played a critical role in overruling CIA analysts and including the Steele dossier. We also know that the Clinton campaign lied to the media, denied they had funded the Steele dossier, and indeed hid that funding as legal expenses by Mark Elias, the general counsel at that time of the Clinton campaign. And all of this required this all-on-deck effort, the government, the campaign, the media. That's why when you see the reaction of the media today, it's clear that no matter what is produced, you can show a dozen heads in a duffel bag, and they're still not impressed. And the reason is that for most of the media, this is not coverage. It would be a confession. That is, if they actually cover this story, they are confessing their own role in what may be the greatest political hit job in history.
It is presidential. Put presidential in there. Presidential hit job. Yeah. It is. It's the biggest presidential scandal of all time. We'll cover more of it coming up, including some of the analysis we've seen yesterday and some of the documents that exist out there. You know, my first question that I had when I'm reading this stuff, why was it top secret? None of this needed to be top secret. Once the Republicans, once they got into it, and why was this not released? What was top secret about what we heard yesterday, which verified so much of what we already know? What in there? What that these things were declassified? How would anything that I saw yesterday harm national security in any way?
You know, that gets back to the lack of cooperation, of course. What do? Would you put it in the top secret vault? Well, sorry, we can't discuss that. We can't show it to you. You know, this is Durham's work coming out here.
Yeah.
And all of that had to be declassified. This part of it had to be declassified. But why?
But why wouldn't Barr allow him to release all of that?
Did Barr have the authority to?
From what I've read, they set the rules and the parameters of it. Why couldn't you have this? Because you were looking into this. Mm-hmm. Why was this top secret? Why
did he have the authority to declassify it? Did Barr have the authority to declassify it?
I don't know.
If it's classified. It's class, what is the process?
Right. I'm asking. I'm not making an allegation. Just not. This isn't for you. For everybody. I'm not making an allegation against Barr for it. I'm simply asking questions. And if he couldn't declassify it, and it was evidence that showed it, why was it declassified? What was the reason for classifying this information, which certainly does not at all hurt American national security at all?
No.
It gets to the written documentation of the biggest presidential political scandal of all time. Mm-hmm. Presidential race political scandal. 866-98 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour, more on the newly declassified documents from the Durham Report appendix made public yesterday, and apparently there's more still to come on this. You know, one of the things we said is what we were promised was the ignition that started this entire thing. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because when Jonathan Turley pointed out, for example, how Hillary Clinton illegally used the campaign money and was charged with the FEC, for that, does that start the criminal conspiracy that they may be looking into, which would hit, at the minimum, civil RICO laws?
Right.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. You know, the interesting thing on the whole Russia collusion hoax is that, you know, you've got some of the parties saying there's nothing here, but the media really isn't touching it. The mainstream media.
Right.
They're not touching it. And as Jonathan Turley said, because they were complicit. So to sit there and say, okay, this is credible, hurts themselves, but the fact of not carrying it does the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. The media no longer has the power to not cover a story and keep it from the American people.
Right.
Because people get their news, and this is all over social media. What I found interesting, you know, and Turley said there are people all around Washington going, oh, my God, look at this, but behind the scenes. And I understand why. You know, you take, when you look, and the minimum that I want all of this documented for history, because I want history to document what the Democrats have done. And you take the Russia collusion hoax, everything. You take the impeachments that followed it. You take the censorship. You haven't seen this type of corruption from a political party and those who support a major political party in American history. There's nothing like this. And it's interesting to see, for example, the Matt Taibbis, the Michael Schellenbergers that were involved in the Twitter files. That I believe, you know, they're Democrats. They looked at that and went, holy crap, when they saw the censorship. I think they're doing the same thing here. And so they built up some credibility with Republicans and independents. Now, it doesn't matter for Democrats because, as we said, 60%, was it, of Democrats still believe that Trump colluded with the Russians.
Right.
It's completely false, but 60% still believe it. The fact that you have 40% that don't, though, I might have to look at as being a positive. If they're not sure or say no, Trump didn't collude with Russia, if it's 40% that fits into that classification.
That's not zero.
Right. It's not. It might be an accomplishment.
Significant
yes.
number of Democrats.
But as Schellenberger writes here, there is no evidence, say Democrats and the media, that the Obama administration manufactured intelligence to create a false narrative that Russia interfered with the 2016 election to help Trump win. Recent document releases, they claim, are a nothing burger. Haven't heard that in a while. Tulsi Gabbard's accusation that the Obama administration and intelligence community led a coup against Trump is misleading and a dangerous lie. They say the allegations Obama spokesperson said are bizarre and ridiculous. But a newly declassified appendix to the Department of Justice Special Counsel John Durham's May 2023 report dramatically undermines all of those dismissals. The appendix created by Senator Chuck Grassley reveals strong evidence that the FBI, that would have been under Comey, right, covered up a plot by the Hillary campaign to amplify ties between Trump and Russia. Intelligence and the CIA deemed reveals strong evidence that the FBI covered up a plot by the Hillary Clinton campaign to amplify ties between Trump and Russia. Intelligence that the CIA deemed credible showed that the goal of this plot was in part to distract the FBI investigation into Clinton's use of a private email server for official communications during her tenure as Secretary of State. Durham's report, which investigated the origins of the FBI's 2016 Crossfire Hurricane investigation into Trump's team, had already suggested that the Clinton campaign sought to link Trump to Russia, but included weak evidence, largely consisting of public information. The declassified appendix, however, adds considerable new details which suggest the Clinton plan was real and the FBI helped cover it up. The CIA believed Russian intelligence memos which analyzed hacked emails and alleged that a Clinton plan to vilify Trump by leaking him to Russia were credible. On September 7th, 2016, the CIA sent the FBI an investigative referral memo that referred to the Clinton plan, and the CIA stated in a written assessment that it did not assess that the above memoranda or hacked U.S. communications to be a product of Russia fabrications, which means they believed it. Mm-hmm. Everyone involved, including the FBI, acknowledged the credibility of the source of the Russia intelligence reports and hacked emails, which appears to have been from the Netherlands General Intelligence and Security Service, which hacked into the Russian hacking group Cozy Bear, gaining access to their computers and monitoring them through a security camera in their facility. Dutch intelligence tracked the operation for months and provided information to U.S. agencies. We absolutely believe the collection is righteous, McCabe told investigators from the Justice Department's Office of Inspector General, even while acknowledging that Russia intelligence reports typically contained editorializing and spin and hyperbole and all that kind of stuff. The comments suggest the FBI was accustomed to evaluating intelligence and accounting for Russian editorializing and exaggerations rather than dismissing the entire trove of intelligence for the same reason. And indeed, while the FBI was happy to use the Dutch agency's intelligence to allege Russia election interference, it appears to have rejected intelligence from the same Dutch source when it came to information about Hillary Clinton, despite credible evidence of a Clinton plan to fabricate a scandal accusing Trump of working with Russia to interfere in the election. The FBI appears to have done exactly what Clinton wanted to do. It opened an investigation into alleged coordination between Russia and the Trump campaign, and it relied heavily on the Clinton-funded fake Steele dossier for investigation and surveillance purposes. There you go. And everybody knew about it.
Yeah.
Comey knew about it. Clapper knew about it. Brennan knew about it. Obama knew about it.
Yep.
Biden knew about it.
Yep.
Did I mention Comey? Comey knew about it. They all knew about it.
And kept it going.
Yep.
You know, not only, because if you think about it, the entire play on the assignment of Mueller, they knew well before then There was nothing there. And you've got all the evidence and more coming out now that shows how big of a conspiracy this really was. It's mind-boggling to think about, because we've said from the beginning, if they'll do this to someone like Donald Trump, even after he won the election, they keep it. In fact, they accelerated it after he won the election with the assignment of Robert Mueller. If they'll do that to him, they'll do. You have no chance as a normal citizen.
Jonathan Turley wrote, "The turn." This is after you got to the point of, this all happening with Hillary and everything else from July all the way through January of 2017, July of 2016, whatever. Oh, by the way, they knew about it earlier. We had asked about when. They at least go back to March of 2016, by the way. I looked at that yesterday with some of the documents. The next step is the turn, when ordinary becomes something extraordinary. This required the involvement of the government. The Clinton team worked behind the scenes to feed the dossier to the FBI. It would be the criminal investigation that would transform the ordinary accounts, like Carter Page speaking in Moscow, into an elaborate Russian plot, even though the FBI was warned early on that Page was a CIA asset, not a Russian asset. The Clinton team found eager officials in the Obama administration to assist in this illusion. The newly disclosed evidence shows how the turn was made. In July of 2016, Brennan briefed President Obama on Hillary Clinton's plan to tie the then candidate Trump to Russia as a means of distracting the public from her use of the private email server. The original Russia investigation, funded by Hillary Clinton's campaign, was launched days after this briefing. Months later, it would be Brennan who overruled his own CIA analyst in his ordering of a second last-minute assessment at the end of the Obama administration in support of the Russian allegations. It would help make the turn with the all-consuming Russia investigation that would follow. Career analysts, though, were not buying the turn. They objected to the reliance on the Steele dossier, that it ran counter to fundamental tradecraft principles and ultimately undermined the credibility of the key judgment. One CIA analyst told investigators that Brennan refused to remove it, and when confronted with the dossier's major flaws, Brennan responded, "Yeah, but doesn't it ring true?" That's the key to the turn. It needs only enough to fool the audience. The final stage is called Prestige, where the magician faces the toughest part of the trick. As explained in the 2006 movie, The Prestige, the viewer is looking for the secret, but you won't find it because, of course, you're not really looking. You don't really want to know. You want to be fooled. However, making something disappear isn't enough. You have to bring it back. That's Jonathan Turley making his comments on it. The difference is this trick was designed to derail Trump, and it worked. In the end, however, the special counsel and inspector general both rejected the Russia collusion claims. The public then reelected Trump. Now the Prestige may be revealed by the CIA. So there we are right now. So it's...
Well, it's, again, I guess if you want to look at the positive side of this, and that is that eventually the truth on something this big has to come out. But look how hard they work to make sure, to try to cover it up, to make sure that it wouldn't. They never wanted this out. Ever. They were desperate. They had to have known. When he announced that he was running again, I wonder what went through the minds, because eventually you get to a point, if he becomes president again, and he did, but at that point when he announced he was going to run, it was November of 2022. Then they had to have gone, well, all right, he doesn't have any friends. Because at that point, he had his base, but he did not have the party just yet behind him. And then that came together in full fashion in 2024. Who was it? Was that Turley that just said that everybody inside D.C. just has to be?
Yes,
that's a part of this,
right?
Because I don't know where you go from here. The evidence is there now, and the public is seeing the evidence. And eventually, again, the truth is going to find its way. I think there were the flaw in this whole thing, too many moving parts.
It was so huge.
It was so huge. There were so many moving parts, so many things that had to happen and then remain in place and remain secret. Which could be the reason why, you classify these things as top secret and put it in the vault. Sorry, we can't share that, can't be shared. But then once Trump becomes president, we can declassify it. That had to have been when he won in 24. That had to have been when they started getting nervous. Because at that point, you had to be, because you look at it and go, all right, does he have the will here to go after it and finish the job on this and uncover this? And their only hope is to deny. But you really can't, because you and I said all along, when John Solomon, Sarah A. Carter were at Circa News in the spring of 2017, and they were talking about related things, and they had documents, and you and I said, well, look, it's going to be important to get certain documents. I wasn't confident that we would ever see them. You and I and many others were putting the puzzle together, asking questions, but it's hard to get to a conclusion without documentation. And there's, again, so many moving parts. That's the problem with a grand conspiracy, is that you have many people in charge of keeping this thing intact and keeping it secret. Well, at some point, there's going to be a break in the levee. At some point, there's going to be a fissure. And at some point, there's the risk of Donald Trump becoming president again. And that's exactly what happened.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Just because idling is common doesn't make it smart. Idling a diesel uses about a gallon of fuel per hour, which can cost you about $180 per week at $4.50 per gallon if your truck idles 8 hours a day. Idling easily can cost you a few thousand more in fuel alone per year, not including the added engine maintenance expense that results from excessive idling, harder on your truck's engine than highway driving. In addition to operating costs, many governments impose no idling laws and regulations with fines as high as $25,000. Instead, there are many alternatives: an extra blanket for cold temperatures, window screens for when the weather is warm, bunk heaters, and various auxiliary power unit options abound in this day and age too, many powered just by batteries. Otherwise, diesel and gas gensets burn far less fuel than your truck's engine. Research options to find your fit. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We Roadside Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks for being here this morning. If you've been a long-time listener to the show, you know we told you so much of now where the evidence is coming out, the actual written evidence, the emails, that it was a hoax. But we knew this all the way back in 2017. We knew so much of this.
Yeah.
Why? Because people like Comey actually told us.
Yeah.
And we'll have the audio cut from him on with George Stephanopoulos. And this was after he was fired, admitting he didn't tell Trump that the information he got was from Hillary.
Right.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up here in a little bit, we will get to Kamala Harris interview on Colbert.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, what did Turley say about that?
Okay,
What
so
was that?
I saw this yesterday. I happened to be on X when Turley posted it.
That's Jonathan Turley.
Yeah, Jonathan Turley yesterday on this. Colbert is having Harris next as a guest on his show. The host who lost $40 million a year interviewing the candidate who burned through over $1 billion in losing the last election. It's like Bernie Madoff interviewing George Santos on not being appreciated. Oh, it's brilliant. That's just brilliant from Jonathan Turley. Great observation. Yeah, well, that whole thing. Oh my gosh! And I think we have audio coming up.
Yeah,
on that.
yes.
Yeah.
We have audio coming. Plus, we have
we'll give Colbert some exposure.
Yes, this is the Red Eye Radio effort to save Colbert.
Yes.
And after
GoFundMe, it will only cost you $40 million a year.
Right. If you'd like to help support the continuation of Colbert and pay his $20 million salary, we'll give you an opportunity.
Exactly. Oh, my gosh.
And then Trump's response, he was asked about her, just hilarious. We'll get to that. But as we talk about the declassified information that had come out yesterday, we had told you we knew so much about this already. We knew about it in 2017. Why? People like Comey told us. Wesley Hunt, Representative Hunt, posted this yesterday and wrote, James Comey admitted he hid from President Trump that the Steele dossier was paid for by Hillary Clinton and the DNC. Why? Because it wasn't necessarily his goal. And what was the goal? As we now know, a political hit job, plain and simple. Comey protected Hillary, as we all know, weaponized the FBI, and set up a sitting president. All of those are completely accurate. But here's part of the interview with Stephanopoulos and James Comey. This goes back to after he was fired. Okay, because this goes back to 2017, middle of 2017. Here we go. And Stephanopoulos, Schmoopy's husband, actually asked the pertinent question. In case you're wondering why I'm saying Schmoopy's husband, George Stephanopoulos is married to the actress who played Schmoopy with Jerry Seinfeld on the Seinfeld episode. The Schmoopy episode. Allie Wentworth is George Stephanopoulos' wife. But here it is. Here we go.
Tell him that the Steele dossier had been financed by his political opponents?
No, I don't even think I used the term Steele dossier. I just talked about additional material.
But did he have a right to know that?
That had been financed by his political opponents? I don't know the answer to that. It wasn't necessary for my...
Tell him.
Wasn't necessary for my goal. That did the goal part isn't it, but it's part of the text. Wasn't necessarily part of my goal.
Yeah, it wasn't necessary for my goal.
Yeah, and they knew it was bogus.
Right.
Comey knew it was bogus.
Right.
That question wasn't asked at that time.
Right.
but he knew it was bogus by that point.
Mm-hmm.
So remember his tour. Remember Comey, a higher loyalty. Remember all that BS that he fed a willing liberal public that wanted to hear it. Remember when he was on The View?
Oh, yeah.
You have a higher loyalty, don't you, James Comey? You have a higher loyalty. Yes, I have a higher loyalty to the Constitution of the United States. Blah, 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 blah.
Remember him standing in a cornfield? He's just kind of looking at the weird picture that he took.
Yeah. You and I always said...
By the way, that wasn't a selfie. Which means somebody was there with him taking that photo.
Well, he does seem to evoke a certain type of imagery like the children of the corn.
Yeah, it's true.
You and I had
Was he wearing blue jeans? Because if he was in that photo, then he's a fascist.
You and I have always stated way, way back when he was testifying to Congress, we said he comes off not what you want to see in an FBI director.
He's not speaking law enforcement language.
Right. He doesn't speak the way law enforcement and investigators that you want them to speak, which is we're looking for the truth.
Right.
And we always thought he's just an odd, but they all are. You know, Strzok is an odd kind of guy. Brennan's an odd kind of guy. These people are all odd.
Yep.
It's like, how do you what do you think? I mean, it's you and I, for most of a significant portion of your life, you grew up on the southern border.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on the northern border.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons we've been together now over 20 years is because we may not hold the exact same opinion on all things,
mm-hmm.
but we sort of process thoughts the same way.
Yeah.
And the most frustrating thing, well, we had played the woman talking about the jeans ad earlier. and we said,
yeah,
this is one of the reasons you can't talk to liberals, because you sit there and you just go, I don't even know what kind of dots you're connecting. It doesn't make any sense. And to just give you an example, because we played it over an hour ago, here it is, just so you can hear it. This is a liberal woman. This was the best. This is the best analysis from the left, which means it's the worst.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here we go on the whole American Eagle blue jeans thing.
Good genes passed on to offspring? That American Eagle ad with Sydney Sweeney is literally overt eugenics. I know you don't want to hear this, but if you want to talk about how that ad is promoting eugenics, which it absolutely is, we also have to talk about how choosing not to wear a mask when you can during an ongoing pandemic, because you're okay with a certain subset of people, primarily disabled people of color, dying for your own comfort, is also eugenics, just the more normalized kind.
That's the kind of odd way of processing thoughts that so many liberals we find have. You just go, well, you're not even processing thoughts in a way that's coherent or connects any dots, or
it takes a massive lack of critical thinking skills to say something like, I know you don't want to hear this, but, and then keep talking.
We do want to hear it.
It is the and I'm sorry, but on the virtue signaling meter, wow, that one is off the charts. And gaslighting too, of course. You don't think it's racist, but I'm going to prove to you it's racist. And then, of course, she doesn't prove it's racist. She just comes up with these weird, bizarre theories.
By the way, she wasn't wearing a mask.
No, she was not. And if she's ever worn blue jeans, then she, too, is a bigot. By their own standard.
Oh,
if they can make it up, I can make up my own rules.
But if think about this, what Comey knew at that time to answer that question, George Stephanopoulos, wow. That could come back and haunt him big time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you admitted you didn't want to tell him that you knew, number one, you didn't want to tell him that Hillary Clinton was the one that financed the dossier, and you didn't want to tell him that it was all bogus.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
And we know that,
and that
because,
would be important, obviously important information.
And we know that when he went in January of 2017 and told Trump, a lot of media wouldn't go after the story.
No.
But as soon as he went and told Trump, there's this information that you colluded with the Russians, and didn't tell him that the information was bogus, and didn't tell him that it came from his political opponent, and the fact that they knew she was trying to do it for, and we had asked these questions way back then in 2017.
Right.
Because we knew that Brennan knew, we knew the White House knew, we knew that they knew she was going to try to set him up, and it was like nobody really cared to follow or connect those dots for some reason for a significant period of time.
Well, look at Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn was basically everything that he went through was over what? Lying to the FBI. But Comey admitted, we knew that this was a new administration. They were rookies, I'm paraphrasing here, but they were new, and they didn't know that they could have gone to White House counsel and had us go through official channels. Michael Flynn is thinking they're here to talk about certain things, and Michael Flynn thought, well, there's certain things I can't just talk to two agents from, one of them being Peter Strzok, from the FBI and talk to them about counterintelligence issues. I can't just sit there here and have a open conversation about such things. So he gets nailed for lying to the FBI, all the while the top brass, including Strzok and Comey, were lying to him. Because if you're not going to him, if you know that information is bogus, that intel wasn't intel at all, it was bogus and had been completely discounted by then, you have an obligation to tell him.
The point I wanted to finish up making about Comey telling Trump, he knew everything was false. They knew all going back to July 16 that Hillary was attempting to set him up. But he went to him, and then remember, because the media wasn't covering that story really big time. Then it became a huge story because after Comey visited Trump and told him this information existed, that he colluded with the Russians, but didn't tell him where it came from and didn't tell him that he knew that it was bogus, well, then that got leaked to the media, and that's what drove the story from that point, that Comey went and told him that, he's under investigation for colluding with the Russians at that point, that there was an investigation going to start, and that kicked it off. So Comey actually kicked it off. How did that leak? That leaked because Comey leaked it.
Yep.
Or Comey had somebody who he trusted leak that story.
Which means he leaked it to that person, and then they leaked it to...
Which set off everything that's going on. So him saying that and having that on tape, and Republicans know he has it on tape, it's like, whoa. I don't know what you do with it. I don't know. Again,
I don't know.
We guessed, and we didn't guess. We gave we just looked at all the evidence that existed a couple of weeks ago and went, all right, what possible crimes? And this is when the whole Ratcliffe story came out, and we went, all right, well, he's going to release his stuff. Where does it go? And he talked about racketeering. So we said, okay, based on that information, then what would they be looking at? What would the actual crime be? Because treason under the Constitution doesn't fit the allegation of treason. And we went through and said, okay, but can you use the RICO laws by using the civil violation? Hillary broke a civil law by lying about where that money was going to set up Trump. And then Kevin Kleinsmith got arrested. And then he was he plead guilty? Or I can't remember. He pleaded guilty, I think, right? Yeah, he pleaded guilty.
Yeah.
Pleaded guilty to fraud with the whole Carter Page thing. And we said, well,
they
that's...
got 12 years probation.
Right. And we said that is what set up the beginning of the conspiracy. They mentioned racketeering, and we went, so what could the possibility be? Well, that's what kicked it off. And then everything that happened in the years since, everything from impeachment, everything that happened along the line was all based on those original criminal acts in order first to do what Hillary Clinton wanted to do and the FBI agreeing with her. And you say, okay, that was the first criminal acts. What can you get them at? Now, we don't know what they may get them at. Perjury may be one thing.
Right.
But what else they could get them with, we don't know as of yet. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Senator James Lankford will have an audio cut from him saying what we have always said. The only campaign that colluded with the Russians was the Hillary campaign in 2016.
Right.
With Iggy Danchenko.
Right.
Senator James Lankford promotes that. I haven't heard of any Republicans saying that like we've said for the longest time.
Right. I mean, we said,
does.
look, by their, I mean, if they're going to make the claim of colluding with Russians, well, Iggy Danchenko was the dossier guy.
Yeah.
Russian national. That had ties to the Kremlin.
Yipper.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I made it to Friday. Whew. And it's been a completely, totally insane week. And it all started out, I'll say it again, with a cat in a skirt.
Yep. And just got crazier from there.
Yes. I can't even remember. What was the cat in the skirt story about?
The lady whose cat was bothered by the Blue Angels.
Oh, yeah, that was it. Yes, yeah. That's right. That's right.
Right. And then there was a picture of the cat embedded in the story.
Right.
And the cat was wearing a skirt.
Yeah, that was the whole Seattle thing, the whole protesting of the Blue Angels.
I want to see proof that the cat approved of the skirt. That's a human decision. Last I checked, cats can't just get their cell phone out and then get Uber to take them to the cat skirt store. That's a human endeavor.
And the show's been off the rails since that story. I think that was Tuesday, and we've been off the rails since on that. I will say this, though. The planes yesterday, for some reason, were flying pretty low. The airport's 20 miles from me. 18 miles by the way the crow flies. And they were, I don't know why, but there's a lot of air traffic over me yesterday. My cat's looking out the window like, wow, look at all that stuff.
Yeah.
There was no panic at all from my cat.
Yeah.
So, and all I could think of was, well, maybe my cat isn't upset because my cat isn't wearing a skirt. Let me find a skirt for my cat.
Yeah, let's look into that part of it. And are those fake eyelashes on the cat? I have to ask.
Well, that cat had a skirt on. It had like I don't know, a necklace. It had on almost like a scarf. I mean, it was
right.
We were ready to call the SPCA on the woman. Saying,
right.
Wait a minute, look what it's doing to the cat.
Right. What's next?
Leave the damn cat alone.
Right. What are you trying to do? The cat's not human. The cat just wants to be a cat. That's all the cat wants. To be a cat.
So, I was reading the other day, and I don't even know where it was, but it was somebody asking a question about their cat, and it was, I really want to know, I mean, do cats, do they ever think of, like, dark things that we as human beings do? I mean, do cats ever think of committing suicide? And why not? Why do humans think about harming themselves, but cats don't? Oh, my. The response was... The guy was genuine.
Yeah.
Why don't cats consider committing suicide?
Wow. That is dark.
Yeah, exactly. Because why? They've got 9 lives. They'd have to try it 9 times. Somebody actually put that in there. Yes, that was in the thing. It was like, and most of it was, dude, they're not human. They're cats. Don't apply human characteristics to a different species.
Yeah, and certainly don't put a skirt on.
Put a skirt on a cat.
And once you start accessorizing your cat, at some point you really should draw a line.
Yes,
because it starts with the little scarf. It starts with the raincoat. I've seen that. What are you doing?
One thing, at least, liberals aren't going to put blue jeans on their cats.
Well, this is how we get a pet psychic that makes money. That's how that happens.
I forgot they exist, don't they?
Yeah.
Brian
Regan did a bit about this years ago. It's this, I'm sensing he's thinking about, your dog is thinking something about a bone and going outside. I'm sensing, because those are the people that would pay. Oh, let's get the pet psychic over to the house and see what Fifi's thinking.
My cat understands food, garage, because she loves going out to the garage, and now Mousy. And Mousy is the mouse laser. It looks like a mouse, but it's got a laser in.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first got it, I was worried. It's because I read it was like, make sure, and I got these little stuffed mouses that actually squeak that she doesn't pay any attention to, my cat, at all. And it said, make sure that you satisfy your cat when you've got the laser, put it on something like a little stuffed animal so it will grab it. And so it's, you're not frustrating your cat because the conquest is there. They made the conquest because they're chasing laser and can't catch it. I bring it out. My cat looks right at the mouse where the laser beam's coming out and looks all the way down to where it is on the floor.
Yeah.
And when I pointed at the end, after she gets a little tired, I pointed at like the little tiny stuffed mouse I have that squeaks if you move it. She doesn't pay attention to that at all. It's like, what are you doing? It's a stupid laser.
Yeah. Are you doing a light show? Is this for you or me?
Right. I'll chase it for a couple of seconds, but and she does ask for the laser, but she knows it's not, because they're like, the cats believe, I was reading on them, like, did a cat psychologist or something write this? They think it's a bug, so don't frustrate them. Well, I bring it out, she looks right at it, and she'll actually look. She'll want to look into where the laser beam is, and I don't want to do that. Into her eyes. I have to move it away, and then she looks, and then she follows down. Her head goes down to where it's on the floor. It's like everything that I was told is completely false for my cat.
Yeah. Right.
But I got it because I was afraid she was gaining a little bit too much weight. So, so that's
then you need the cat treadmill. Go to catskirtsandtreadmills.com. You'll find it. Put the cat on a treadmill. The laziest human endeavor. I think we'll get a treadmill for the pet.
I get her some athletic wear.
Right. Exactly. Little warm-up suit. Headband. Go all 80s on it. Put on Katrina and the Waves and do some aerobics.
Katrina and the Waves.
Walking on Sunshine.
I know. That's I knew exactly what you were talking about.
That's an aerobic song.
Yes.
And breathe every time. That's what I hear in my head. That's what I hear in the lyrics.
Oh, well, we sit and wonder whatever happened to Katrina. All right.
I don't know. There was never a behind the music.
No, there was
Katrina in the West behind the music. It didn't happen.
I think that was the summer of '85, I believe.
Was it?
Yeah, it was summer of '85.
All right.
Because I was working in East Texas at that time when that song came out. And that, whenever I think of that song, I think of that and Simple Minds. That's all you heard on the radio.
Yeah.
So the Breakfast Club would have come out then in '85 then.
Yeah, I saw Simple Minds live one time. Unreal.
Were they good?
Really great live. I mean, great. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some of the video stuff, and they're really, really good.
Yeah.
Well, they had to be because he dated Chrissy Hynde of the Pretenders for a little bit, so
yeah,
she wasn't going to date anybody that musically couldn't cut it.
Right.
Right. Because before that, she dated the guy from the Kinks. Remember that? Ray Davies?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Remember when she gave approval for Rush to play the song? Rush Limbaugh?
I think the lawsuit was settled, right?
Yeah, she didn't. Well, I remember her saying her father was a conservative and loved Rush.
Right, yeah. Yeah, after all that was decided, she actually said that her dad loved Rush.
And it went to a charity or something like that.
Right, yeah.
The money.
Yeah.
We didn't have such luck with REM, did we?
Oh, we didn't take on the challenge, I guess.
Yeah.
We didn't take it upon ourselves to catapult that over to the our company's lawyer's office.
Yeah. For people that don't know, this goes back, I don't know, 10 years ago? I would always tell the story of when I worked in Buffalo and REM was playing in Buffalo, and my buddy went to the my buddy went to the show, and I didn't know he had gone to the show. He called me up before I went on the air that day. He said, I want to stop by the radio station to show you what they were handing out. And he, had worked for Caterpillar Generators, sold generators. And the auditorium, or the old auditorium at that point, this goes back to the mid-'90s, he got a call that the REM show, REM was playing, and they needed additional power from diesel generators. And I always told, and then he came up and he said, here's a little book they were handing out, anti-lobbies, and they were promoting the climate change thing and everything else. And it's like they're promoting climate change, but anti-conservative lobbies, but the lobbies for the left were okay. And then it was they were handing out, talking about climate change and all this stuff and not, using less energy. And he said, and I know that I provided them 2 huge, massive diesel generators so they could run their light show. Well, somebody heard it, and we got a cease and desist. We didn't even know that one of our bumper music songs was an obscure REM song. We didn't even know it. We got a cease and desist. Now, we were licensed. We had every legal right to play it, but we just said, no, we'd drop it. We don't care.
Yeah, I don't care.
We're not. Somebody just wants us to play their tune.
We're not a music show.
Yeah.
It's not about the music.
Yeah.
So
that was, but we got the biggest kick out of it. And in our minds, it was Michael Stipe just seething. Hey, they're using my song.
Yeah.
That was in our minds.
I think
we don't
actually,
know.
I think that was
it Michael's?
part of the language. I don't know if it was Michael Stipe, but part of the language is that the artist doesn't want their music featured on a hate-filled show or something to that effect. Yeah.
And we figured out what it was about. It was
right.
Probably calling them out, because I've told that story for years, because it's one of my, favorite stories.
Right.
You need to use less energy in your life. We need a light show, and so give us a ton of extra diesel generators to run it.
Yeah. Exactly.
The hypocrisy was pretty easy to understand.
I'd like to send them a cease and desist on Shiny Happy People, because I'd rather never hear that song again.
It's the end of the world as we know it. And
Yeah.
I'm going to put a cease and desist to those guys at Red Eye, and if they don't stop it, I'm going to sue them.
Everybody hurts. Yeah, but the song goes on for 4 minutes. At some point, you got to get over it.
That was as painful as putting a cat in a skirt.
Yeah.
All right, coming up, more on the Russia collusion hoax, and coming up here in the next couple of segments about Kamala Harris not running. She was on Colbert, an audio cut where there's more apparently word salad that she had that she was talking about, and then Trump on Kamala Harris. That more. It's pretty funny. All coming up, 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. All right. I keep wanting to say Hillary because she's in the news, but Kamala Harris on Colbert. All right?
All right.
You want to hear part of the interview?
Sure.
Everybody's going, no! Well, you're going to hear it anyway. You know you want to hear what she has to say. Right? Here we go.
You're not running for the governor of California.
Correct.
Even though in early polling you beat every other candidate by double digits, you said you're going to sit this one out. Why are you sitting this one out? Are you saving yourself for a different office that might be?
No.
That's what everybody, obviously.
But honestly,
obviously people project onto
no,
their
I
hopes and
understand.
dreams.
And honestly, that it's more perhaps basic than that. Listen, I am a devout public servant. I have spent my entire career in service of the people. And I thought a lot about running for governor. I love my state. I love California. I've served as just elected district attorney, attorney general, and senator. But to be very candid with you, when I was young in my career, I had to defend my decision to become a prosecutor with my family. And one of the points that I made is, why is it then when we think we want to improve a system or change it, that we're always on the outside on bended knee or trying to break down the door? Shouldn't we also be inside the system? And that has been my career. And recently I made the decision that for now, I don't want to go back in the system. I think it's broken. I think there's so much, there are so many good people who are public servants, who do such good work, teachers and firefighters and police officers and nurses and scientists.
I got to stop there. What the hell are they clapping about?
I don't know.
What the hell is she saying?
That the scientists took the weed and made it into edibles? Because she said it twice. And they're cheering.
Is it because it's a Coldplay song and she's referencing the couple at the Coldplay concert?
I don't know if they would have cheered that loud if in the Colbert audience if they announced Colbert was no longer being fired. That sounded like a weed audience to me. I could be wrong.
Some guy's high backstage. He hit the applause sign by accident.
Oh, scientists! What?
I mean, she's off into different tangents. It's
Black
like,
goats.
oh my, oh, she's so bad.
Yeah,
she's so bad. It's entertaining to listen to.
You know, but it's such a poor attempt at this weird virtue signaling thing. I've been a public servant my entire career. Blah, 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 blah. And then bringing up this, I don't believe for a moment, she had this debate with somebody in her family. She's having the debate in public about being part of law enforcement.
Right.
Which we knew was a problem a long time ago because the left can't have you do that. By the way, she just mentioned police officers. They didn't get the cheer, but scientists did. And, you know, this is her trying to basically say, I've done my part. I'm a victim of a broken system.
Right. I thought the same thing. It's like,
and I can't win no matter what I do.
I can't change the system.
Right.
I wanted to build that wall. Yeah. I was going to be tougher on the border than Donald Trump.
Yeah. Remember, I said the word joy for 10 minutes. Remember?
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, after the announcement that Kamala Harris was not going to run, and then she was on Colbert with her latest word salad, scientist.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking, I can't get it out of my mind. Thomas Stolby.
Right.
Science!
Right. Exactly.
But Trump was asked about Kamala Harris and her political future after she had announced she was not going to run for governor of California. Here is Trump's response.
Well, she can't speak. She can't talk. She can't do an interview.
Exactly. She goes down these weird, they're not even rabbit holes. It's this weird word salad every time. I think it's likely that she knows. I think she kind of knew all along. There is this lack of confidence in her.
Mm-hmm.
That's the weird laughter. The laughter is a nervous laughter. And that comes from not being able to speak about your convictions. Speak about the things you believe in clearly and passionately. She's afraid to talk. She closed up shop December 3rd, 2019 and didn't make it to the 2020 primary. She was chosen by Biden to be on the ticket, which was a horrible choice, and then anointed last summer. But I think she knows she can't even go on a friendly podcast and make it, because that's what you have to do today. It's not a 5 minutes with Steven Colbert world anymore. It's not. It's, you got to go sit down on a podcast for an hour at least. Well, that would be horrible. When we heard, you know, that there were conversations between Joe Rogan's people and her people, said, oh, my gosh, please make that happen. 3 hours? Because Rogan just goes until it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way she can't last an hour. She couldn't last 30 minutes.
Yeah, and you pointed it out that and we talked about this during the campaign. She can't even go into friendly territory.
Yeah.
If she is asked a question, and you and I would always talk about Obama. Obama would do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he had a more confident way of filibustering and
saying nothing.
And saying nothing.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
but he did.
Yeah, he did.
He did. I think
Yeah.
it was one time. I think it was Stephanopoulos one time after about, 7 minutes. And he said, yeah, but you never answered my question.
Right.
And he was like, well, and then he went on for another 6 minutes. And it was like, you never answered my question again. And that's what happens in the media when, you're a liberal and they say, okay, I got to be tough here. Well, you didn't answer the question after 5 or 6 minutes of filibustering. So then they filibuster for another 5 minutes. And at that point, you give up and you ask the next question that they're not going to answer.
Right.
But it almost is. She reminds me of the first time that I talked into a microphone. And it was at the Erie Community College North radio station that only played in the cafeteria. And I could not say, I opened the mic 3 times and just let the next record play. Oh, God. And it was a record. And then when I finally did, I was sweating bullets. And I always imagined that seeing her, that's what I looked like probably, I don't know, the first 100 times I had to open a microphone. Because there was no confidence at all on just introducing the next record and then saying anything that was outside of the record. Like, okay, this would have been 73. Okay, there's Seals and Crofts. Now here's Three Dog Night. And now the weather. I don't know how to do the weather. Just panicking over it. Something new thrown at you. Because when you talk and when you're in front of the microphone, the first thought is, it isn't anymore. And I think some of the greatest advice ever for people in radio is you're talking to one person at a time. Only one person is hearing you in their ears. There may be 1,000 people listening or 1,000,000 people listening.
Or just one person.
A couple of dozen here for Red Eye. Our family and friends. But you're talking to that person. That's all you're doing. And I often think of being on a microphone now as compared to them and say, oh, what an evolution that was. But she's never outgrown it. I have never seen anyone in modern American politics.
She just listed all of the offices she's held. Think about that. She had to campaign. Now, she didn't have to get one vote in order to become the candidate for the party. We know how that happened. That didn't work. And there was a reason that she had to drop out in 2019. But it's not a small thing when you run for Senate to be a senator from California.
No. But I've never seen somebody at that level who seems like they're completely unprepared for everything or doesn't have a shtick down. Which is, I'm just going to deflect. I will deflect confidently. I won't answer the question confidently. She can't do it.
Yeah.
It's as if she realizes that nobody buys anything that she says. And yet she still has to go out there knowing that nobody buys what she says, and she's just got sick and tired of doing it.
I firmly believe and have always believed that is the case with her. And there was a reason we didn't really see much of her. Remember, she was the border czar. Which means nothing's going to happen. That's what that translates into once Biden assigned that to her. But there were stories, they were sort of stories, but I think there's good reason to believe it was true that Biden didn't care for her.
Oh, yeah. So he gave her a job that he knew she couldn't succeed at because he didn't want her to succeed at it.
Exactly.
You solved the border problem while I put orders to open the border.
It's look at the massive contrast, light years between Vice President Kamala Harris and Vice President J.D. Vance, who can talk to anybody at any time about anything. He's never backed down. He doesn't have that nervous laughter thing going on. That nervous laughter is the tell. That's the tell right there. There's that she does not have any confidence in herself.
Mm-hmm.
You know it. Look. Say what you want about Hillary Clinton, but she comes out and she's just, she's forceful. Now, we all know that there's a lot of nefarious thoughts going through her head, but she doesn't lack confidence, probably because she's gotten away with it up until now. But
she's never mastered and I'll call some of it the fake confidence. Well, no, the confidence that even if I know I'm full of crap, that the people out there are stupid, and I'm confident I can get away with saying anything, even though I'm ignorant. There is that talent that politicians hold.
Oh, yeah.
In doing that, and she seems to realize that I'm completely clueless. Everyone knows I'm clueless. So every time I have to go out and speak, I'm sweating bullets because you can see it in her face. You can see the tension in her face. You can see how unsure she is of herself and the panic that she's in.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when she just starts going around in circles. And you're like, what the hell is she talking about?
I've been saying since, I think I first said it sometime last year, that she looks like somebody who was in a crowd and somebody pulled her up on stage to speak. Oh, wait, you want me to speak?
Yeah.
Well,
somebody,
okay.
Somebody who has never spoken before.
Never done it. Doesn't really want to do it. That's the whole thing. That nervous laughter, that tension that you see tells me she doesn't want it. I think that's what you're hearing here with the answer for Colbert. I did all these things, but I'm not doing that again. Look at all these things. Can't I just retire and ride off into the sunset? Look, I wrote a book.
I wonder how many liberals said, oh, she just said, I've given up.
107 Days is the name of the book, about the shortest presidential campaign in history or whatever is what they're basing that on.
What will sell more copies, her book or Biden's?
I think Biden's.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Biden's.
With the hope that
if she had a bigger family, then I'd reconsider. But
well, I love her. It's like, you're going to be a prosecutor and your family objected to that?
Right.
You weren't, this isn't like you said, like I did to my father, I want to be in show business. No, you need to be an engineer.
Yeah, exactly.
If I had said to my parents, I want to be a prosecutor and be in law, they would have said, go for it.
Right.
Who would have said, don't do it?
Right.
And by the time,
when I wanted to, in fact, get into law enforcement, my dad, who was a career military law enforcement, military intel, he said to me, okay, but this is what you should expect, and this is how you have to do it. This is what it would take from you in order to, what you would have to do in order to do this. And I was like, that sounds like work. I'll stay in radio. No, thanks. It's it was it's a very clear indication that I think she knows, because no one is really chanting her name. The pollsters just get whoever is in the top of the mind.
Except for Susan Page at USA Today, as we mentioned earlier
of course.
in the show.
Yeah.
The anticipation that she may be running.
Well, and even Susan Page knows that that's not true. You're trying to create the hype just like they did on the stage at the convention last summer.
Are you saying somebody in the media is not being honest with us?
I'm flat out calling them a liar.
Yeah. Susan Page, USA Today yesterday. Next stop, White House. Anticipation builds for Kamala Harris and other eager Democrats.
Nope. Nope. Because tell me what other... I don't even know any other Democrats that are building anticipation. Nobody's chanting. No. You know why? Because the rock star thing is over for the left. And that's all they had. They worked it up. They started with Bill playing the saxophone on Arsenio Hall.
Not if you're a commie.
And, well, we'll see how that goes, right? Because the first time he takes a position that's non-communist, is he wearing an American flag on his lapel?
He's not in national office.
Exactly.
Oh,
and
is he wearing an American flag?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
That's
the first time that he ever wears one, he's going to be called out.
Remember Obama?
You're too MAGA.
I'm not going to wear an American flag.
Yeah, false sense of patriotism.
It's a simple false sense of patriotism. A couple weeks later, he's got the flag on. Somebody got to him and go, "You're running for damn president of the United States." It's like if you're being interviewed to be the head of GM and you won't wear their pin or their hat.
Yeah,
you gotta wear the American flag.
Yeah, you can't drive a Ford, dude.
You represent the United States of America, you idiot.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up following the top of the hour, more on the Russia collusion. Russia collusion. Let's go dance. Let's do the Russia collusion.
There you go.
The Russia collusion hoax, and what we're finding out, and what we may find out also in the future. You know, one of the things is you can't cover that in 15 minutes. You know, you and I went through the scenario of what possible crimes could be a couple of weeks ago. It took us 90 minutes. As you've said so many times, there's so many avenues that you can go down here, and so much that the Democrats did that it takes time to go through it.
It really does.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. Wasn't covered a lot yesterday. Wasn't really covered a lot from conservative media at all. More liberal media carried it, but the tariffs were before the Court of Appeals yesterday.
Right.
And it's interesting to look at this, not actually the trade deal, but just putting the tariffs on. You know, the trade deals, of course, they can do, but it's the putting the tariffs on and using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act from 1977 to justify it.
Right.
And I thought when I was reading this, and again, I don't know, there's a number of things here that we'll discuss coming up here, how this is going to end up. I sense that because you have such a large number of the the judges on the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals in D.C. that are longtime Democrats, that it probably will be defeated here and then go to the Supreme Court. As we know, the United States Trade Court said that what Trump is doing is unconstitutional. Then it went to the Court of Appeals. Then it will, after this, go to the Supreme Court, probably no matter how it comes out. And one of the things is that in the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, and we've gone over this one or two times before, I guess, looking at the trade court that looked at it. But nowhere in the Emergency Economic Powers Act does it say the president can use tariffs. You know, what an emergency is, you can't really dictate that when it comes to executive power.
There is discretion there.
Right. The point is here that those tariff levels were set by Congress and that the president can't change them now. If he declared, I don't know, martial law, could he do it? I don't know. I think we're dealing with things that haven't been challenged before.
Right.
But when I'm looking at this here, and one of the judges brought up Loper Bright from 2024, that Supreme Court precedent. Earlier this week, Donald Trump even said that because of the Supreme Court ruling on him for immunity, they probably can't get Obama. That may be the case here for some of the tariffs. Because if you look at it, and I mean, how do you judge? The courts aren't going to judge whether, I don't believe they're going to judge whether it's an emergency or not. I don't believe the Supreme Court will. I don't think they'll make the judgment say, no, we're going to dictate. If Congress hasn't dictated specifically what an emergency is, I don't believe the courts are going to dictate and say, well, it's our job to tell you what an emergency is.
Yeah, I think that's
right.
I think that's reasonable to assume.
Right. And so, but the other part of it is, when you look at it, you know, for example, an emergency, if you look at it and say fentanyl and drug trafficking, international cartels crossing our border, I can see that they could look at that and say, okay, that is an emergency. But under the Emergency Act, nowhere does it list tariffs, and tariffs have never been used under that law. Now, sanctions have been, freezing assets have been, but tariffs have not been. Well, if you're looking, for example, at the fentanyl crisis, even the whole Brazil thing of putting the tariffs on because of the political opposition, you might be able to make a stronger case for that than you can. And they've used all he didn't use that part, but the fentanyl he did, and the trade deficit. I think it's going to be tough to sit there and say the trade deficit is an emergency when you haven't had any majority of Congress over a period of 48 years come out and state it's a major problem that we have to deal with and it's an emergency. I think they'll probably look at that. But I think the bigger problem is two recent Supreme Court cases that Republicans absolutely agree with, probably close to 100%. One is Loper Bright. The other is the West Virginia versus EPA a couple of years ago, where West Virginia West Virginia versus the EPA won that against the EPA, where the EPA said, okay, we want to regulate this, we want to regulate this, and they said, that's not in the text. That's not in any text of law that Congress passed, so you can't do it. the executive branch, which would have been the EPA. The EPA is a part of the executive branch.
Yeah.
That it's not listed that you can do this. So you can't do this. And then in Loper Bright, which is just last year, made it even clearer that because here it is here. Let's see, go the. Do you think the standard survives Loper Bright? The judge asked. The High Court's Loper Bright 2024 landmark says judges should not automatically defer to regulators' interpretations of laws that are vague. The court majority question doctrine also holds that Congress must give the president express authority for actions with economic and political significance. And so that's the challenge. It may be those two Supreme Court precedents that stop the president not from working on trade deals for the future, but using the tariffs as economic leverage to get a trade deal.
Right. Yeah.
Because that authority is not given. There nowhere in the text is the claim from the defendant of any law that gives the president that ability to do so. And if that ability is not expressively permitted, then the regulators, who would be the executive branch, including the president, cannot do that. I think that's the challenge that they face.
Well, especially on if you're considering that a trade imbalance would be an emergency, if that's the position by the administration, then does the ultimate solution create a balance? If it does not, if there is a history of saying, all right, we cited trade imbalance, but then you can look at the new deal if you announce a deal with, whatever nation, and you still didn't solve the trade imbalance by using those tariffs as leverage to get that new deal. So in other words, you didn't change anything, so clearly you don't see that as an emergency. Certainly not a goal.
Well, we had said if you want to stop the trade imbalance, you do initially what he was going to do, which then caused the Treasury bill crisis.
Right.
So they backed off on it. But if you wanted to, I understand the point that you're making, that if you wanted, because we had made it yesterday, if your goal is to bring all manufacturing back to the United States and you apply what the president was saying, 6 months ago, we need to stop it. We need to build everything here. He said it.
Right.
Well, then your tariffs would be 200%.
Right.
But the fact is, he's not just saying it's an emergency. He's saying this is a way, initially on, when this was filed way back then.
Right. Yeah.
The arguments were, we can change the tax system by putting in tariffs. Well, that's taxation, and that's exclusively Congress.
Yep.
So the president...
You're rewriting tax law at that point.
But because the president said that, we can get rid of the income tax, and whether they could or not, it's not the question. It's
the basis of what they're doing.
What was the intent of the administration in doing it, which would be the challenge there.
In declaring an emergency overall, in just that part of it, if you said the whole fentanyl thing, all right, you could get to crisis level on that. But again, can you use tariffs as the leverage there? That would be the question. You would have a
better chance of calling it an emergency and using IEEPA to freeze assets, things like that. What, for example, what he's done to Iran. That's viewed as an international crisis. He's probably pretty safe on that. If Congress had come out, let's say there were just one proclamation of Congress, no matter it was Republican or Democrat, that had come out and stated that the trade deficit is a national emergency and we need to do something about it now. And the executive branch, we're giving them the authority to do that. That's a whole different ballgame, because then Congress has explicitly given the executive branch the right to do what they call an emergency.
Yeah.
And so that's the challenge. And so I don't think this would change any of the trade deals. We did see last week, I think it was the Wall Street Journal said, look, Europe will agree to anything. They know the investment's not going to happen. They know they're not going to buy whatever it was, $750 billion in energy, because the United States doesn't export that to everybody. These numbers aren't possible, so they'll promise anything and then come back and say, well, we can't guarantee it, but they're going to agree on anything because they believe, a couple articles written, they believe the courts will rule against Trump, and so they just don't want to feel the pain now.
And on top of that, it's Europe. They don't have a problem with imposing taxes on their people.
Yeah, but I'm talking strictly the legal case here. Yeah.
And, so it's not, the entire thing here is, it's interesting to watch the legal debate, but the question is, all right, ultimately what is done, because I'm convinced it will go to SCOTUS. And then beyond that, if SCOTUS says, okay, you can't use tariffs for that, you have to come up with a deal. You can do deals, but you can't state, this as a basis for putting those tariffs on.
Right. And Congress has already discussed a balance of payment. There's already a law that exists from Congress. Congress has delegated the president limited authorities to impose tariffs that typically entail procedural requirements. For instance, 15% for 150 days in response to large and serious balance of payment deficits. That's in Section 122. And on countries with discriminatory trade practices, Section 103. So Congress has given the president an authority for 15% for 150 days. Not 35, not 45, not whatever. And so he already has the power to do that, but that doesn't exist under IEEPA. He's limited in what Congress has said he can do with it. And so that seems to be a big barrier, not from the 15%. He can make that case for another, how many days have been the tariffs have been enacted? But if anything over 15%, if it was 25, the 30% on Canada right now, or the 35% he put back on, it would take that away. And so the punitive because what Congress is saying is, if it's really bad, you take care of it for 150 days, and then we come in and our legislation will do that because we hold the power when it comes for trade as to what we approve.
Right.
So I think there's actually more barriers than there are avenues for the president in this. But again, I don't know. I don't. There may be something that we're missing here. I don't know what that would be, based on the law, not based on economics here. It's strictly based on what the law gives the president the ability to do, and recent Supreme Court precedent, which has really said the regulators, which is the executive branch, you have to be specific on what you do. And if you're not, you just can't say, well, we weren't specific, so we can do this. And that's the challenge that the president faces here. What that does, if the court comes back with it, now, again, we may not hear it for a year.
Right.
And then the 150 days would be over by that time.
Well, by then we're likely to have deals, across the board. Anyway, it just depends on, again, what do those deals look like?
Could these countries sue to make those deals void because of what Trump did that was viewed as unconstitutional by a Supreme Court?
I don't know. Did they have standing?
If they were harmed. Can they make the case they were? But Dave, you make a case. Do they have standing if they're not United States citizens?
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Not whether they were harmed.
Right.
That's a good point.
Right.
I don't know. In trade relations, I don't know. But does that go to the trade court then?
Maybe
The U.S.
there.
trade court that's already
Right.
ruled against Trump then come out in their favor. I don't know. I have no idea. We're in uncharted territory here. So 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Once a roadside inspection is completed, the officer will close it out, which involves the officer writing or typing up the report. The more the officer found during the inspection, the longer this will take. If violations were discovered, most officers, as a courtesy, will explain the violations to the driver. If there were any out-of-service violations, the officer will normally explain what must be done to get the out-of-service order lifted. Drivers need to be very attentive during this part of the inspection. The driver also needs to read and understand the complete inspection report. After receiving the inspection report, the driver has 24 hours to get the roadside inspection report to the motor carrier. If the driver will not be returning to a company facility within the next 24 hours, the driver needs to know to get it on the way to you via email, mail, or fax within 24 hours. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Here's another one. We had mentioned Roy Teixeira the other day. Democrats, he writes the liberal, he's the head of the Liberal Patriot. He's a lifelong Democrat who way back a little over a year ago said Biden and Harris both have to be more MAGA.
Yeah.
But there's his latest article. Democrats should give up on the resistance. You think they're going to?
No,
not at all.
No, they're rebuilding the resistance.
Man, more on Jasmine Crockett. I think it was Lindy Lee. They asked her. I think I have the audio too. Lindy Lee. Remember, she was the fundraiser for Democrats who, after last year, quit. I mean, she's the one that got huge donations for them, and now she's left the Democratic Party, and she's just shaking her head, going, "My God, they're making her the focal point." Jasmine Crockett, the focal point of the Democratic Party, goes. They keep making mistake after mistake after mistake. That and more coming up.
The show that never stops. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. All right, the Russia collusion hoax. More on it. We're probably be breaking it into segments because to just go through the entire thing, as you said, there's so many tentacles in this.
Yeah.
The other day when we fully explained it, maybe about 2 weeks ago, when it first came out about what Ratcliffe might have, and that they, were looking into racketeering laws, which would be RICO. We started laying out and saying, okay, what would that be about? I still believe, I'm still looking for an argument that is against what I have said could be maybe a more likely scenario. And that is criminal charges that may be fraud, criminal charges that may be lying under oath.
Yeah.
But really, I go back to when Trump filed a civil RICO lawsuit or charge against a number of Democrats out there, and the courts kicked it back.
Right.
And you and I have always said, wait a minute. Does Trump have a recourse for this outside of government government charges for fraud, whatever. We've already said we don't know. And I've actually got a few emails. Well, obviously, there's conspiracy for treason. No, treason is a specific law in the Constitution. And we don't see anything. If they had, for example, if you had, and this is all hypothetical, Obama contacted Putin and said, I want you to do this. And they had those emails that said Obama contacted Putin and Putin agreed to withhold the damaging information on Hillary and let them go along with it to tie it into another head of state, to cooperate with our adversaries to hurt the United States of America. At that point, I believe you could make a treason charge. Whether it would stick or not, who knows? What's the precedent for treason on that particular level? Because that would not be covered in what his responsibilities are. Where they say that he has immunity is he can at any time say, well, I don't like that intelligence assessment. Give me something better. It may be wrong what he did. Well, it is wrong what he did. Not maybe. I'm so used to talking in hypotheticals about what might come in the future. I got to be careful I don't talk about something and put it as a hypothetical when it's not.
One could construe it as wrongdoing.
Yes. Well, you can have a lot of wrongdoing and it not be illegal. But if he, for example, in that hypothetical with Putin, you can make the case for treason. But other than that, disinformation is something that political parties use all the time. But the point is, there is a reason for RICO laws, and there's a reason for the RICO law when applied to civil lawsuits. And that's where, and nobody else has talked about that I know of except us. Because it failed once for the president when he tried it. But we said, yeah, but he's got much more evidence on his side now. We've got these emails. And if there's more coming out and they can get a direct line that they were attempting to destroy Trump, not only are you destroying him professionally, politically professionally, I guess you could look at it that way, they were attempting to destroy him personally. Mm-hmm. Everything was to destroy him, because when you destroy somebody politically and professionally like this with something that's completely false, and then you have a civil violation, Hillary giving the money to Perkins Coie and labeling it as, normal campaign things when it was for opposition research. She was attempting to hide that money. We found out why. There's a reason. There's an intent for hiding that money. You don't want anybody to know what you're doing. That, to me, sets up the civil lawsuit. And then when you see Kleinsmith lied, then you can we haven't even gone to how Alpha Bank fits into all of this, Eric. How the whole conspiracy theory that Trump was communicating with the Russians through Alpha Bank, completely made up.
Yep.
By the Hillary campaign. So you go into that area, and remember there was the charge of the FBI agent lying at that point. Or was it the former FBI agent? God, there's so many tentacles here.
Yeah.
But the fact is there was court case. So you look at it, because you don't need necessarily, you've got a civil violation with the FEC that she was fined, what was it, like $300,000, I believe, if memory serves me right, for that, because it was obvious she was trying to hide the money. So that sets up, to me, the beginning of the RICO, and then Kevin Kleinsmith, again with the fraud, where they were trying to make Carter Page as a Russian asset when he was a CIA asset. He was the opposite of what, all doing that in an attempt to destroy the Trump campaign, which destroyed his reputation, led to everything that we see. So everything that we see of the attempt to destroy Trump, I think you have a much better case of a civil lawsuit from what I know right now than you do any type of racketeering, RICO, criminal conspiracy from what I know right now, and I don't know everything. I just see the setup of that.
On the criminal side, lying to Congress, lying under oath, perjury,
fraud,
and because this thing runs so deep and had so many players involved, there could be a whole list of criminal wrongdoings by the time we get to the end of it. But what we know right now, we know the lies that were told under oath. But you get to the question about civil action here, and I think that has to be, in fact, I think the courts would look differently based on the new information. I mean, this is a ton of information that he didn't have at that point. It is one thing that I do wonder is how much did he know but didn't have available to him at that time when he filed that first lawsuit? Didn't have it available to file it with the suit, but he knew that this is what happened. Well, I mean, you think about what we knew back then, what we didn't have documentation, but we knew based on that series of events how it was being covered and the work being done by countless individuals on this. So, my gosh, at that level, he probably knew, but couldn't actually present it.
Well, we knew the court rejected it. Did the court say that he couldn't prove that he was damaged? I'll have to go back and look at that.
I think that was the basis.
I think that was part of the
basis.
base. I think you can look now. You look back now, years later, and say, "No, he was." It led to everything, and the goal would be, you set up the conspiracy, and you do have the conspiracy. You know, RICO. A lot of times, when you talk RICO, the left hand doesn't have to know what the right hand is doing. You have a criminal conspiracy or a criminal organization. But if it was the civil RICO law, you could look there and say, well, wait a minute. You had this person who knew. You had Clapper who knew. You had Brennan who knew. You had Comey who knew. You had Obama who knew. And they kept this going anyway to destroy his reputation. Well, you're not the left hand did know what the right hand was doing at that point. You don't necessarily even need RICO for that. Just general conspiracy and racketeering laws. You know, in civil, but if you want to use the civil RICO law for that, you've already got the conspiracy that they all knew and knew that it wasn't true and it was false, didn't tell him what they knew in order to get it into the newspaper. This is Comey, and Comey hurt himself, I believe, if there's a civil lawsuit by what he told Stephanopoulos, and we played that last hour. And the goal would be bankrupt them all. If you can't get them criminally, you get them civilly. And then you also, again, you make it official. It goes in the history books as official.
So Judge Middlebrooks, who dismissed this goes back to 2022.
Okay.
The U.S. District Judge dismissed the lawsuit saying, quote, most of the plaintiff's claims are not only unsupported by any legal authority, but plainly foreclosed by binding precedent. What the lawsuit lacks in substance and legal support, it seeks to substitute with length, hyperbole, and the settling of scores and grievances. Well,
it's changed in 3 years.
That's all out the window now.
Yeah, that's a great point. Good point.
And I because I wondered then, I remember in the back of my mind wondering, he's got to know. He had already been president. But by this time, you know, we're into 2022, and he's not president at the time. He's not yet. In fact, when it was dismissed, he was not yet candidate again, but there was that possibility that he was going to run again, a possible candidate again in the future. And, of course, this district court judge is looking at it going, like many of the district court judges that have gone after him during his second term, just Trump being Trump. And he's just, this lawsuit's filled with nothing, hyperbole, blah, blah, blah. Now you can look at it and go, oh, well, there's something here. It would be hard for them to deny it. I could see a leftist judge doing it, but you would be in making the points against a lawsuit here. I think I'll say this. It's a much stronger case now and has, I don't know, how many documents that come along with it.
And might be much stronger 6 months from now.
Yeah.
If these people are brought before Congress.
Right.
All right, I got to play this, though.
All right.
Because you and I said a long time ago, we said, not only did Trump not collude with Russia, but the only campaign that had any collusion with any Russians at all was a Hillary Clinton campaign with Iggy Danchenko. This is Fox News yesterday. This is Senator James Langford of Oklahoma basically saying that. Here we go.
Yeah. I happened to be on the Senate Intelligence Committee at that time, and I would beg to differ with the reports. We watched Russia playing both sides of this campaign. Russia's goal was to be able to confuse everything and everybody. Russia was trying to be able to pursue ways they could get into voting machines and into secretaries of state's offices. They were actively doing that. But at the same time, Hillary Clinton was working with Russian contacts to try to create this false Russian story and to be able to drive that. That's what actually CIA, including Brennan, was trying to rush through and find ways to be able to prove. So he's trying to be able to convolute multiple different issues there. Russia was definitely trying to interfere in both sides of the election, but Donald Trump did not hire a Russian group to try to interfere with the Hillary Clinton campaign. Hillary Clinton hired a Russian group to try to interfere with Donald Trump.
Exactly. If there's any Russian collusion going on.
Well, we said they're trying to convolute the issue. We had said that earlier on today's show, and I think earlier this week. We go, well, they're trying to bring up two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was the report said Russia that both Republicans and Democrats agree with. They were trying to do it, but the fact is they were not, because that's not the point. The point is Democrats were claiming they were favoring Donald Trump, and they were not. In fact, it was the opposite of that. 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today because our show ends in an hour, and when it ends, it becomes our podcast.
Yeah.
And so if you want to catch other portions of the show, you can do that. And if for some reason you cannot listen to one of our great radio stations live, whatever reason, because that's our preferred way that you listen to our radio stations. Thank you so much to all of our great affiliates out there. But for some reason you can't, we stream all 5 hours live on our Red Eye Radio app. All right. I love this headline from the Babylon Bee. You ready?
Okay.
Investigation concludes Trump is the only one who did not collude with Russia.
That's a much better way to put it. Actually,
but it's not really parody.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's actually a better headline and a better way of saying what we've been saying. Yeah. The Democrats, well, actually, Trump's the only one not colluding with Russia.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.